All right, guys, welcome back to Jerk Block Talk. I am Jason Fernandez, and we are here at CrossFit Rife. Today, we're going to be outside of the walls of the gym, and we're going to be in the office, and we're going to talk about something that I think is pretty important, and that is something that's not sexy at all. So your gym manual, or your procedures, your standard operating procedures, your systems, whatever you want to call it. I think it's very important that every gym has one of these. And there's a saying, I have to look it up. I don't know where it came from, but the saying is, the value is in the planning, not the plan, meaning that once you have this, the actual binder is not really what the important thing is. What's far more important than that is that you have taken the time to create this. And it's a little bit overwhelming. It's a little bit kind of daunting to kind of take this on because unless you really like this kind of crap, it's just not fun. But what I will tell you is once you have it done, it will make your life a lot easier. Because then after that, just making edits to it is far less painful than creating the whole thing from scratch. So I'll talk to you about a couple things. One is kind of how you should do it, like what's the easiest way to go about creating this. I think I tried to figure out, it took me about 100 hours to do this and finally get a finished product. And then kind of what you should have in it to make it useful. So first and foremost, the easy way is, I think ours has 20 chapters, if you will, in it. It's got a lot. But the easiest way to do that, if you're like, God, that's a lot of crap, I really don't want to do that, make it very simple on yourself. The first day, all I want you to do is just start with the table of contents. Just write the table of contents, so basically the name of every chapter that you want in the book, and then you're done. So leave it at that for day one. Then, every day after that, set aside 30 minutes to an hour of your day to go in and do your first draft of each chapter. So after I finish the table of contents, that's day one. Day two is going to be whichever chapter or whichever piece of the table of contents I feel like writing that day, that's the one you're going to work on. So draft as much as you can and then move on. And then day two, go back and do the next chapter or finish the previous one. But don't spend more than about 30 to 45 minutes maybe on the long end, just typing in there and writing out the procedures. That's going to make it very painless for you. And at that point, if you do an hour every day for a month, you're going to get 25 hours worth of work in there, and probably a little bit more, because some days you're just going to be in a flow and you're going to jam out more than one or two chapters, just because you're operating at a really high capacity and you start flowing, it'll start coming out. And so some days you'll do more, some days you'll do less. But the problem is the plan is just start putting in as part of your day until you have a draft put together. And what you need to know is, as you start going through this, when you create the table of contents, you'll be adding to the table of contents as you start drafting things, because you'll find out oh, I forgot I need to add this to that, and I need to add that. And the more detailed, the better. So that's how to start doing it. That's the easiest way to start doing it. It's not overwhelming. You don't have to sit down for 5 or 6 hours. Make it part of your morning ritual if you have one. Sit down at the computer. First day, just type 10, 15 sections of what you want to have in your gym manual. So I'll kind of go through and I'll list kind of the things that we have in ours. So the first tab is missions. We have our mission and vision in there. Administration. These are things that are different accounts that we have, like Wodify, whatever your merchant accounts or things like that. Just kind of real weird stuff where you can put all of your passwords and your Wi-Fi password for the gym, weird stuff like that in there. After that, you have things like, interns, running classes, coaching, what else? Equipment, employees, valuations. Have a copy. There's one in here for client waivers, insurance, website operation, intro classes or fundamentals, whatever you run. There's a chapter in here on movement scaling. What else? Professional development, cleaning, monthly reports, phone script, emergencies, stuff like that. So you guys kind of get the drift on like the things that you would have in there. So what you want to do is you want to go create that table of contents and then start writing that. And then what you want to have in there is have it as detailed as possible. So one chapter could be, running classes, and in that running classes chapter, you would have essentially all of the, the specifics on like opening and closing the gym would be one, and this sounds really cheesy, but do yourself a huge favor, make it as detailed as possible and literally write, take the key, put it in the keyhole, turn it to the left, go inside, turn all of the lights on, turn the radio on to whatever volume you want it on before people go in there. If there's any prep or something you want specifically done in your gym, go ahead and write that in there. And the point is, like, the point of this exercise is this. So I've given a copy of my manual to quite a few people, and I don't have a problem doing that, but I think what is happening there is you're missing the point of what I was talking about earlier. The value is in the planning and not the plan. So if I were to give you this, that's cool. You would have a template, but this is my template. I created it off of exactly how I wanted my gym to run, which is not the same as your gym. I have how I want my coaches to operate, which is maybe not the same way you want your coaches to operate. So the point is actually in the exercise. That's where the real value is you actually sitting down, and it's kind of a very introspective thing, sitting down and saying, this is how I want the gym to run. This is how I want the coaches to run the class. This is the timeline that I want them on. These are the things that I want them focusing on. This is what I want our professional development program to look like. And it's a living document, so you're not going to get it dead on the first time, and that's okay. The point is now I have the document, and like I said before, editing it or just going in and making slight changes as you evolve as a coach or as your business evolves, that's super easy. You just go in and you make some edits and then you update it and you tell everybody, hey, go do that. And go read it and make sure you're up to date on what's in the gym manual. The other great thing about having this, outside of just taking your thoughts and dumping it onto paper, is that you've defined everything that you do now. So now it makes it really easy to onboard people. So if you're bringing on new staff members, new coaches or whatever, you have this to give them. And now this is study material for how you operate your gym. So, this addresses everything from like your mission and your vision, which is your culture, to your operating procedures, which is, these are the expectations for the class. So it makes you have this very, very finite template of like, okay, if you want to work here, this is how this works. And it's not subjective anymore, like they can read. And really, when you're done, what you want is a product where if you just literally up and left your gym tomorrow, anybody that could read the English language could come in here, read this for an hour or two, and be able to operate your gym like in every facet. So everything from like running the administrative pieces of your gyms to making sure that professional development happens on the timeline that's supposed to. I'm talking about like having like, hey, in here it's going to have, the third Thursday of every month is the staff or the coaches meeting with the staff where we review X, Y, and Z. The classes, in the classes, when we have ours in here, what we're talking about is like how to run the classes. Like we have the timeline written out in there. So if somebody just walked in your gym and they're like, well, how do you run your classes? You want to get to the point where you wouldn't even have to tell them. You just be like, everything that we do is in here. And then you just continually update that and make it, relevant to what you're doing now. And we've updated ours at least twice. And the painful part was on the front end, but if you break it into little pieces and start with that table of contents, it's going to be a lot easier on you, but you're going to be super, super happy with the product at the end of the day because you're going to have something written down. And then you can refer back to it. Then you can, you don't necessarily want to punt a lot of questions if people come to you, but there's certain things that, as a head coach or as an owner, where like you just get aggravated when people ask you the same question over and over, and you can now give them reference material to say, hey, don't ask me that anymore. Like, you should know it's in here. Why haven't you read that? So it's a great tool to have, but don't get crazy with it, meaning, this is not per se the Bible. Like, you know, you can deviate from this as much as you want. And again, the value is in the creation of it, not necessarily the paper with the binder. That's not what is truly valuable. What is truly valuable is if you've taken the time to go through the exercise of literally writing down what it is that you want your gym to look like, and what it is, how you want your coaches to operate, how you want your classes to look, you know, what you want your gym layout to look like. There's a ton of value in actually sitting down and taking the time to do that. What I found out when I started doing this is that I really didn't know what I wanted, and you'll see another video about like, you know, people are struggling with like, you know, either developing their coaches, and it's because you don't know what you want. You haven't sat down and made a decision like, this is what I want, this is how I want development to happen, this is how I want the evaluations to happen. All that stuff should be in here. And again, once you get it going, it's just a living document. You can continue to refine it and change it, add stuff, take stuff out if it doesn't make sense anymore, you know. But that's the easy part once you've gotten the bulk of it done. So the gym manual, I think it's super, super valuable. If you haven't done it, and if you've just taken one from somebody else, I think that's fine. It's a good starting point. But again, I think it's far more valuable to create your own from scratch, because you get to create your gym and your coaching staff exactly the way you want it, not based on what the guy down the street did, which is fine for a while. But remember, their coaching staff is not your coaching staff, and their business is not your business, and their clients are not your clients. So if you try to take that model and slap it on verbatim to what you're doing, it's probably not going to end up working. You know all of the minutia of your gym. You know all about the people in your gym and your coaching staff. So when you draft this, you can draft it with all of those things in mind, what you like and what you don't like about your coaching staff, or the way you guys run your classes, or any of that stuff. And this is a little bit more broad than coaching, but what you're going to find is, as a coach, when you're trying to develop your staff, this is going to be incredibly valuable to you, because now you can give them reference material or study material, so you're not always having to tell them these things. Now you can say, hey, go read up on running classes and scaling options, and then let's talk about it tomorrow. And that's a far better exercise than you trying to explain the same thing over and over and over. And then lastly, this just makes everything standard. So everybody's doing the same thing because they're reading the same thing and they're abiding by the same book. So if you haven't done it, I really, really recommend it. It's not necessarily fun unless you like that stuff, but make it easy on yourself. Start with the table of contents, then just do one chapter a day. It's not that bad if you do it that way. I think when I did it, I never spent more than 45 minutes typing out a chapter. So not a huge chunk of your day, but if you did that for 25 days, you'd have 25 chapters, and that's a ton of time. And then everything after that is just revision, spell checking, doing some sanity checks on the ideas you had in there, because you're going to write some shit stuff in here that you're going to take out at the end. So I hope that's valuable to you guys. If you have any questions about some other, how I did this and some of the things that are in it, feel free to ask in the comments. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you guys find this stuff to be valuable, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.